hello guys. I'm here in A State Park in Western New York, and we're trying new technology. We're recording over Skype, and I have Mike. Yes, Mike, on the other side. Mike, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hey, so again, we haven't decided that Skype is a marketing partner, and I'm sure they won't, compensate us for telling you that we're on Skype. But we're trying different ways of recording our video conversations so that maybe they can seem just as spontaneous as they did in person.
Yeah, so we did try Zoom, and I was not ecstatic about the voice quality, and also the video came out grainy. None of this may be related to Skype, I mean to Zoom, but whatever, we're just trying different ways to make it convenient for us and convenient for you guys. What would you like to talk about and or comment?
We can talk about the Quixote quest that any of us could find ourselves on any given day. You find yourself potentially drawn or called to go in a particular direction, and it's useful sometimes to talk to another person to see the wisdom, perhaps, of not just going down the rabbit hole.
Well, I have a lot to say about this from the wisdom of my declining years. The bird's eye view on this, a more general view, is that when we're young, I mean teenagers, we want to assert ourselves in the world. We want to make a contribution. We also want to see what we're capable of. It's all natural. By the way, it has to do a lot with life coaching. That's why young people seek advice from people with more experience. But at the same time, they want to experience things by themselves. Well, because that's what makes you a whole person. So what happens is that I'm walking here in dirt, so hopefully I'm not gonna swim in dirt. So what happens is that usually as teenagers, we are protected from doing something interesting, drastic, stupid, or amazing by our parents and society, school teachers and whatnot. And then in our early 20s, in our 20s, we want to make some really big contribution. At the same time, we're learning what our limits are. We're also learning what is stupid and what is not. That, by the way, applies to all of us. So it's not like young people are necessarily more prone for doing something idiotic than older people. Well, but in general, the more experience you get, two things happen. On one hand, you know more about what's possible and what's not possible. On the other hand, because you know more about what is possible and what is not possible, you limit yourself as you get older. And there is a great wisdom in not knowing the outcome. How many people have achieved some amazing things because they did not know that something was impossible? So that's to me, the overarching view. I know my feet are already wet. I'm, by the way, avoiding some dude with a big fat dog and walking by a place which has potentially wind, and since now I'm wet, it doesn't matter where I'm going because it's not going to get worse. So anyway, so specifically to any kind of thing that you want to accomplish, obviously you need to look at how much value it has to you, how much value it has to society, whatever that is, what kind of impact you want to have, and you make an assessment, right or wrong assessment, and there are, of course, degrees to that, probably the more experience you get, probably you will be, by the way, look at the lake. More experience you get, the better assessment you can make whether this is something you want to do or not. And there is really, as they say, no right or wrong answers to this because, well, because there aren't.
Well,
And
let's
yes,
let's break that into its three parts. Actually,
sure.
um, why do you want to do it for you? Why do you want to do it for others? And risk versus reward. That's the three parts.
Yeah, well, you're right on. So why would you want to do it for you? Well, because one way or another, it develops you, it asserts you, it gives you experience, it gives you more experience in life, and it also gives you experience as in, getting something interesting. So like, for example, if you do something as simple as bungee jumping, it will give you a thrill that gives you an experience, but it also makes you more experienced because, you may discover that, you really hate jumping from a height like this because you thought that you had, on a scale of 1 to 10, fear of heights at 5, and now you discover that it's actually more like 7, 8, or 9, and you don't want to do it ever again. So, like, for example, in my case, many people told me that I should jump off an airplane, and this is something which doesn't excite me whatsoever. It's like I don't see this as a thrill. I see it as a disaster waiting to happen. And I may be wrong, but I will probably never try it unless there is some kind of horrible reason to do it, as in
Sure.
trying to escape, as in trying to escape from some kind of horrible war zone, which I'm not going to go willingly at all. So
But
talking
but you
this,
see, but you see, you might also learn. Um, you may learn that, but you may also learn that you're capable of doing this, and that there's
absolutely,
other things that are like this that you want to do, whether it be travel to a completely foreign country with a language that you don't know, or any number of other things. I'm not saying to anyone on this video, by the way, that they should go jump out of a plane or go bungee jumping, but experiencing new things is kind of that kind of thing.
absolutely. And I think that since you know my history pretty well, you certainly cannot accuse me of not trying certain pretty crazy things.
Right.
And to me, they're not crazy. It's like, when I was 23, I went to India and spent 6 months in India. I went there on a refugee document. I didn't even have a passport or citizenship. I was basically a nobody in a big, some say, hostile planet. I don't see it that way, of course. And I had only $200 in my pocket, and well, at that time it was a lot more than now, probably more like close to $500 or whatever. And by the way, that money was taken away from me. It's a long story. Within a couple of days. So within a couple of days, my $200 became $50, and I stayed there, and I got my yoga and meditation training there, and I survived just fine. And most people think that that was an insane thing to do. And I have done many things of that sort in life, which to so-called normal people sound very, what is the word for it? Courageous, forward. I don't see them as courageous. In fact, I'm somewhat a timid person, and I kind of, assess what I want to experience before going and doing it. And some people, some people wouldn't do what I do. But to me, like in my mind, I'm somewhat average person as far as doing, so-called courageous things.
Right.
In terms of the second thing, did we cover the first thing nicely?
Yeah, the first thing is you're growing and or you're showing both for yourself and maybe for others what you're capable of. So that's number one. So then number two is what are you doing? What is this quest doing for others?
Yeah. So before we get there, I just want to clarify. I think that the more you can experience yourself and your own limits, the better it will be without being ridiculous. And the only person who knows what is really ridiculous for you is you.
Right.
So and that's about it. And regarding the impact that you have on other people, there are many reasons for it. You may be in love with your country. You may be in love with a particular group of people. You may be in love with a certain idea, and maybe you're in love with certain ideology. All of that is there, and to me, what you do for others and what you do for yourself are interwoven. To me, I just do not think that collective movements in the society are that important. I really think that's the individuals who do tremendous things in society. So if you can, experience a lot of things for yourself and share that with other people, or show to other people that what they're doing is, I don't know, subpar, wrong, dogmatic, limited, or to say it in a positive way, that you can do something, you can show to them how to do something positive. It's a good thing. Now, there is a story on the Russian internet that I've read several times, how this young, 20 plus minus year old Finnish girl was studying Russian in Russia, and she was surrounded by how do you call this? The wood loggers, forest loggers. They were, cutting trees for paper and whatnot. And it was very cold. It was something like, minus 20 centigrade. She said that she was very cold, and she wants to have tea. And she was obviously expecting that tea in like 5-10 minutes. And the woodworkers, the burly men somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Siberia, they looked at her like she was nuts. And she just picked up the chainsaw, cut out expertly, a log from a fallen tree, cut that log she made 4 or so cuts in it, dropped a little bit of gas, of petrol into that log, threw a match in, and within literally like 5 minutes or less, they had what looked like a stove. I mean, they could fry mushrooms and vegetables on it. They could certainly boil a kettle on it, and literally within about 10 minutes they had tea. And the workers, they looked at her like she was a goddess. And the point of the story was that they experienced before and after. So before, they were in the dark ages, and after, they had a very simple thing that makes their life dramatically easier. So instead of making a fire, which takes a while to make and to, what's the word for it? To kindle and to use it for cooking, within about literally a couple minutes, they have essentially a modern equipment made out of a log. And I think there are plenty of videos on YouTube that show that that kind of thing is possible. And so that's the impact this person had. By the way, if you look at this story, she was not planning to make an impact. She was just surprised that these people didn't know something as simple. So you might have some kind of discovery in your mind, and you want to share that discovery with the world. And one thing you will probably discover is that your discovery is not as good as you expected it to be. But who cares? Because when there are more people working on your discovery, on your insight, they can improve on that insight, and amazing things can happen. That's basically how science works. Someone makes a discovery, and then people improve on it. They improve the terminology, they improve the experimental techniques, and you become very famous. for making the discovery, and there are lots of people who will write dissertations based on your discovery, making some small but significant improvements to your discovery. So that's how science works.
Well, I think that we've basically covered 1 and 2. I think the risk versus reward is kind of the part that maybe we didn't cover as much yet, although covered a little.
Well, I think that for people who are in some form or another goal-getters, means they don't wait for someone to tell them what to do. They may ask for help, but they want to be leaders rather than followers. And there's nothing wrong with being a follower. And there are also leaders among followers. It depends on the kind of leader you are. You just go and do it and let the chips, as they say, fall. You just need to be aware of the size of the chips and whatnot.
In terms of going on a quest, it could be any number of quests, but that's basically what we're talking about.
There are many different kind of quests, and one and only thing that I think I should say here is that quests, they need to be natural. In other words, you're not. It is not something that you decide. Well, I'm going to become an Instagram celebrity and have 1 million followers, which by itself is a kind of quest. But its impact is probably going to be short-term and rather minimal. But the bottom line of it is that in terms of if you're somewhat clear about what rewards you want to make, you want to receive, and the impact you want to have and receive that reward from this impact. Well, it doesn't have to be necessarily completely conscious. It can be semi-conscious. It may be, you are, you just feel like you would like to, I don't know, travel around the world. I mean, I was mentioning another video about, some guy in his 20s who wants to travel to every country in the world. And I think it's an interesting quest. It's easy to explain this, but the side effect, the goal is that he will visit many cultures, will experience many things, will get tremendous clarity in his or her mind about who he is and what he wants. And it's a very nice thing to do when you are young. And when you're a little bit older, you might want to improve on your, I don't know, scientific knowledge, or in case, for example, ultimately, for me, we're talking about spirituality and meditation. So a quest with a big reward would be to meditate your brain out to a point that you become delirious. I'm, of course, joking about it. To discover what it means to be quote unquote spiritual, and discover the discoveries that the Buddhists of this world have made. And these discoveries are, what are they? Well, they are not in language, they are not in action, they're in something that cannot be really described, but many people have accomplished them. And and I'm not trying to say that one accomplishment is better than another, going about the rewards. Whatever is important to you is important to you. If you want to become a great singer, knock yourself out. If you want to become great Buddha, knock yourself out. But at a certain moment, what happens is that, going to the question of the quest, is that when you essentially quests are about climbing mountains. So you climb a mountain and you are at the top of that mountain that you try to climb, or maybe you will discover that you were climbing one mountain and turned out to be on another mountain, which is also fine. And the big thing about climbing a mountain is that you have a better view of your surrounds. So you have better perspective, better scenery that you can share with people, or share with yourself, or just see it. So one of the problems with people who don't go on quests or go on lesser quests is that their worldview, well, what you see, what your ability to see and understand is limited. And when you go on any kind of quest, your ability to understand your wisdom increases. And frankly, I think that the best thing to increase wisdom is going on quests and or undergoing some tremendous pain. So if something horrible happens to you, God forbid, which I don't recommend, you will have a potential to gain tremendous wisdom.
Okay.
You can also cause pain to yourself on purpose, and I have done it several times consciously. The most recent one was me going and getting myself a PhD in computer science. It was 100% conscious event for me, a conscious desire. It's not a desire, a conscious task. I mean, I had a problem, and the problem was that I received certain insight, and I needed to seal it through a meditation retreat, and I couldn't find any facility where I could undergo, that kind of retreat. So I decided to risk it because, academia is a kind of retreat, it's a kind of spiritual place in the sense that its roots are in the monasteries. And I said to myself that with my state of realization, I should be able to ignore the difference between screwing my mind with mantras and rituals and meditation, and replace those with the ritual of going through a PhD process, which is a kind of ritual. You study, you pass exams, you defend your dissertation. I knew more or less what the costs will be. I knew that it would take a lot out of me. Particularly, I wanted to maintain a certain state of realization while going through this sealing experience, means getting more stability in my understanding. And I survived it just fine. I did not get the stability I wanted as much as I wanted, but I got quite a bit. Was it painful? Yes, it was most certainly painful. I was surrounded by people who didn't understand me really. There was not a single person there who understood me, and and there was really no one to talk to. Moreover, I was living with my parents most of the time, which was crazy.
You said in a prior video that you could read whatever you want if you want to read, but if you want to read some things, we can recommend some that are maybe more fun or more interesting. Or read biographies of the best people or whatever. So on this video we've already talked about Don Quixote, and I'm going to bring up one other thing that might be worth reading, which is Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 1, wherein after the prince leaves the stage, Falstaff rationalizes, the better part of valor is discretion. And so I think that really relates to quests because it may be even wiser not to go on the quest, but you might not know until after you've done it. So how do you form your ability to have discretion?
I think that the only thing that is worth talking about here is that you need to have a competent teacher, competent mentor. That is the only person who can help you with this. Certainly, if you go to your parents, well, very, very few parents are competent mentors in this kind of endeavor. Usually, you have to contradict them. You have to fight with them over what you do, or with your wife, or with society. And one thing for future videos, I think we should talk about different spiritual biographies and spiritual books, basically of people going on different quests. The only thing that comes to my mind, actually, I'm not going to talk about it. Let's people subscribe and take it from here if you're going to get that far. And
Sure.
Hit the bell too. Hit the bell so that you're going to be notified of new videos. But yeah, I mean, I think we have covered enough, because all our videos are, it's about making people, basically provoking them, making them aware of what's possible, making their quest for a company of people, or the company of people who are similar to them, a little bit more defined, a little bit more refined, a little bit more focused.
That's right.
And and that is basically the goal of pretty much all my videos. Otherwise, I would just sit in my cave and meditate.
That doesn't have to be us. You can find your own people.
You should not seek us out. You should rather seek people who would be important to you. Seek tasks that would be important to you. Climb mountains that are important to you, and that's about really it.